Very good.
Question number 4, Kelvin Davis.
To the Minister of Police. Does he believe the police decision not to prosecute the Roastbusters has resulted in justice for the girls involved?
Speaker.
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, it's not for me to comment on the outcome of Operation Clover, as that is an operational matter for the police. However, what I can say is that I have been assured by the Commissioner that police undertook a thorough and professional investigation into what's been clearly a challenging and complex case. I accept that the decision not to lay charges has prompted a wide range of reactions, but I am assured that the victims have been the primary concern throughout the investigation and that this was a very carefully considered decision.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Kelvin Davis.
Given that the police believe something happened in 8 incidents involving 7 victims and 5 suspects, but just didn't think they could secure a conviction, what is it that they believe did happen?
Honourable Simon Bridges, in as far as there's ministerial responsibility.
Well, again, on behalf of the Minister, clearly these are operational matters for the police. It would be inappropriate, in fact, for the Minister to involve himself in the detail of this series of prosecutions or potential prosecutions. And I think what I can say is that the victims were the primary concern. It was a very well-resourced operation, and it was done, I've been assured, and through the inquiries that have been made, a thorough and professional investigation.
Supplementary question, Kelvin Davis.
Does he, as the Minister of Police, believe it is acceptable that the police cannot prosecute in this case?
Well, you can't have a view on that.
Again, in as far as there's ministerial responsibility, I'll leave it for the Minister to answer. It's a marginal call. Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, on behalf of the Minister, it's very clear that all prosecutorial decisions come under the Solicitor General's guidelines on prosecutions. They've got 2 tests involved there, and one is clearly a sufficient level of evidence. And what has been clear here through the media and also what I'm aware of is that it failed on that test.
Supplementary question, Kelvin Davis.
What changes does the Minister of Police believe he needs to drive to give survivors of sexual violence confidence they'll have a better than average chance to see justice?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, law reform in an area such as this, criminal justice, for the Minister of Justice. I can certainly advise the House that there is a range of law reform matters, not in relation to specific case or cases, but in relation to the general area of criminal justice and sexual violence that are going on, including following the Law Commission's review of the Evidence Act in early 2013, a drafted evidence amendment bill that will, for example, require defence to give notice before trial that it intends to raise issues about a complainant's previous sexual history, and also making a number of changes in relation to child and youth witnesses that will, we believe, result in the right kind of changes.
Question number 5, Materia Ture.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou e te whare. My question is to the